Guys, you can do better than that. Good afternoon. Hello, I am so excited to be the speaker after lunch. Have you ever heard anyone say that? And I mean it, because I'm really, really happy to be here and talk to you about something that is so important to Malaysia, to your businesses, but also to the world. I'm going to talk to you today about the empathy algorithm. You are going to spend 3 days talking about algorithms, talking about systems and processes and AI. I want to bring that together with the human beings in the room and the human beings in your teams. I'm going to start with this piece of data, and it's a really big number. We have an $8.8 trillion problem. $8.8 trillion. That is the estimated loss in productivity in your businesses, in businesses across the region and the world due to these 3 things: disengagement, presenteeism, and disconnection. People are coming to work, they're doing their jobs, they're there at 9 and they leave at 5. You can't fire them. They are doing their jobs, but that's all they are doing. This reality is disintegrating your business success. Let's look at why. 76% of employees today are disengaged. 76%? Can you imagine if two-thirds of this room were disengaged? What would that do to your business? What would that do to Kuala Lumpur? Right? 4,000 of us here today. So a huge proportion of your people are disengaged. Beyond that, half the room, statistically, is ready to resign, is ready to walk out and find something else. Just stop for a moment and imagine if half of your team left tomorrow. Imagine the stress. Imagine the gaps. Imagine the cost of filling those gaps. In the USA, 40% of the corporate workforce has already gone. 40%, it's done, they've gone. They found their side hustle, they've started a startup, they're working with their friends to change the world and find their purpose, but they're no longer in the corporate world. 40%. These are really big numbers. And then there's this. This is probably the number that gets me up and onto stages around the world every day, because 52% of us are lonely. Now, when you understand that loneliness is not the absence of people, we're constantly surrounded by people. Loneliness is the absence of connection. And we need connection to stay alive, because that's what makes us human. We are pro-social animals. We do better when we are together, and over half of us are suffering with chronic loneliness. Lonely people die 8 years earlier. According to the Surgeon General in the USA, to be chronically lonely is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Our loneliness at work and in life is quite literally killing us. Why? Why all this disengagement? Why the loneliness? Why are we so segregated? We are suffering with what's called an empathy deficit, a lack of understanding. Do you understand the person next to you? Do you want to understand them? The empathy deficit is the increasing gap between us. And it was coined by President Obama back in 2006. He stood up and he addressed his audience and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I know I should be talking about our federal deficit, but I think we need to talk about our empathy deficit." And us humans, being humans, we did very little about this for the last 30 years. What Obama did was predict this loneliness. He predicted the impact of the gaps in your teams and our world and its impact on GDP, on our ability to embrace AI, to embrace everything that's coming for us and make it work. Today, the impact of that deficit is very wide-reaching. As I mentioned just now, we have a loneliness epidemic. We've spent years talking about the pandemic. Meanwhile, the loneliness epidemic has been doing far more wide damage for far longer than the pandemic could ever have done. The World Health Organization has now cried this a global public health concern. It is the highest burden on our healthcare systems worldwide. Not cancer, not diabetes, not heart disease, loneliness. Our inability to work together. When I started this journey, I found one piece of data that changed my life, and it was this. The second biggest killer of our youth is no longer vehicle accidents, it's suicide. When our young people, 14 to 23, the people coming into your workplaces in the next few years, are choosing not to stay on the planet with us, we have a problem. Across Southeast Asia, the increase in men in the workforce hurting themselves or deciding not to share in their lives anymore is increasing monthly. And on top of all of that, this year, for the first time in history, we will have 40 general elections around the world. If you imagine how much conflict one election causes between political beliefs, and then imagine what our world is going to look like by the end of this year, and by the way, the majority are still to come in Q4, when it comes to segregating groups of people. Today, this empathy deficit that I'm talking to you about is a trending corporate and political conversation. You can Google empathy and whatever you are interested in. Empathy in tech, empathy in AI, empathy in FMCG, or banking, or politics, or social change. You will find content. Because the world is realizing the power of this skill. And I would love for you to remember this. If nothing else from today, just this. This will never be a soft issue. And more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, this will never be a soft skill. So if you came in here today talking about soft skills and thinking that our relationships with each other, our ability to communicate as leaders or as teammates was a soft skill, then perhaps I can change your mind. These are hard issues. They're hard to find, and they're really hard to maintain. These are hard impact skills on your team and your business as we go through change. So how big is the problem? We're going to talk a lot about change today and in the next 2 days. Well, the reality is we're a little bit late to the game because this deficit has been growing already for 30 years. And in those 30 years, we have already lost 48% of our empathy for each other. Now, when you understand that empathy is a skill set, it is built into your brain, all of you equally. No, Mimi does not have more empathy than everybody else. People always ask me that. This is a skill set built into the prefrontal cortex of your brain. You were born with this. You were born with this to protect the human race, to ensure that we survive. This is not a choice. This is a skill, and we have lost 50% of it. The fourth industrial revolution, which we're living in right now, is what much of the conversation in the next 3 days is going to talk about. But it's not just about the tech. The tech is the most phenomenal enabler. I use AI to run my business and change the world with empathy every day. But that's not what this is only about. Because fundamentally behind the tech, alongside it, within it, is you, is people. The fourth revolution is changing who we lead and how we lead them. The AI is here to come along for the ride, to make it quicker and faster and more efficient and more brilliant. but not to take away the roles of our people. This is a quote from Satya Nadella. He's the chairman of Microsoft. And he says, most people think that empathy is something you reserve for your friends or family, but they're wrong. It's an existential business priority. So if you came here today not thinking much about the role of empathy in your team, perhaps you might leave today with a slightly different opinion. This is what organizational empathy is. This is your data set for your people. Yes, use the algorithms, use all the data that AI and machine learning can give you, but use this data set to understand each other, because it will future-proof your business. It will change how fast Malaysia, our city, I live here with all of you. It will change how fast we can capitalize on the investments and the dreams that you have heard about this morning. So what is it? Let me play a quick clip. Somebody else can define it instead of me.
Have you seen what it's like out there, Murray? Do you ever actually leave the studio? Everybody just yells and screams at each other. Nobody's civil anymore. Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy.
Nobody thinks what it's like to be the other guy. That's from the Joker movie, highest box office movie last year. This is what we're talking about. When we talk about empathy in the workplace for each other, we are simply talking about perspective taking. Why is this person no longer performing? Why did their promotion not seem to motivate them? Why is this team doing less well than they did a few months ago? Why is no one telling me what the problems are? Perspective taking. Just putting yourself in the shoes of another leader or another teammate and understanding how they see the same reality that you see differently. In the end, it is your ability to recognize and respond to the reality or viewpoint of all 4,000 people in here with us today, your family, your friends, your children, and the people you turn up to work with every single day. I could stay up here probably for the rest of the day, I won't, and tell you about the business impact. 23% higher profit for organizations that embed empathy, 17% higher efficiencies, 48% higher innovation. The list goes on. But here are 4, because I know everybody loves a takeaway. Balancing people with performance and growth. Let me ask you this. How are you ever going to drive better performance if you don't understand the people who you're driving performance in? How do you know what they want? How do you know if they want more money or a better job title if you don't ask them? The alignment of AI and automation with your humans, with humanity. You have to understand your people before you tell them to change, before you explain to them that they need to learn about AI and embrace new tools. The best way to create transformational change is to bring your people with you. We're talking about change management. Today, I won't go through the FBI behavioral change stairway because I just don't have time, but Google it, and you will see that there is no way to change human behavior sustainably if you don't start with empathy. And the FBI model will prove that. And for anyone in here who's passionate about well-being, mental health in the workplace, and inclusion, you have to start with empathy. How can you ever include someone if you don't understand how they want to be included? So organizational empathy is behind fundamental shifts across our businesses, not least of which is the tech. The great news is this: we are not born with a fixed amount. It's a skill that you all can master, and it's a skill that you can train. You can teach people. Statistically, me just standing on stage today with you all is going to shift the level of empathy in the room, because I will have said the word about 93 times by the time I leave the stage. I believe that the more the world talks about empathy, the more empathy the world will have. And ladies and gentlemen, there's never been a time when we needed more connection, each other, more than right now. And when you get it right in your businesses, 76% of people will tell you that they're willing to work longer hours out of choice because they want to. They have higher levels of motivation. Perhaps you can think of a time when a boss that you really liked and respected came to you on a Thursday and said, Mimi, please can you stay another hour and help me finish this presentation? Sure, of course, how much do you need? Versus when you're working for someone who you feel never listens to you. They're not interested. They don't value your opinion. When that same person says, could you stay another hour? You say, sorry, I have to go home to my kids. 76% of people will work longer, be more motivated when they know you are listening. Because fundamentally, the backbone to empathy is to listen. On top of that, employees with an empathetic leader are 63% more engaged. And I'm assuming at an HR conference that we all know what that means. It means improvements and performance and profit per capita and output and all kinds of positive metrics simply by listening. Imagine how easy your jobs might be. On top of that, we know that when we have higher levels of empathy in our business, we have higher levels of innovation. Innovation has to come from ideas. You can only have ideas that are effective if you understand your market. Whether you're in B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter. When you understand who you're selling to, you can create innovation that is more effective, that lasts longer, because people actually want it. And finally, this is probably my favorite stat. 79% of people, nearly 80% of people say they will leave their job, their industry, and all of their experience just to find a leader who listens. I believe this is what's behind the Great Resignation or the silent quitters or any number of the other phrases out there. People saying, if you don't hear me, why am I here? And finding someone that will hear them. For anyone in the audience that is still questioning halfway through whether this impacts performance, I want to show you this chart. This is data from the Business Solver report, 6,500 people, big data. And I want you just to look at the top red circle, which says 93%. The yellow is employees. And what that piece of data there is referencing is a statement that says, being empathetic does not mean that my employer should lower performance standards. 93%. Your people want to win. Yes, they want you to listen. Nobody wants to talk into a vacuum. Everybody wants to feel seen and heard, but they also want to win. Think of a child at a birthday party, and they run the race and they lose. What do? They cry. We don't want to lose. As humans, we want to win. Your people want to win. But they also want you to see them and value them and show interest in their opinion and who they are. But here's the twist. I'm going to be honest here. I've been running this work for about 5 years. And probably for 3 of those years, I would have stood up here and said that empathy and AI don't really have a fit. But I have learned that that is wrong. That AI, however much you feel it's an algorithm or a machine, AI has empathy, it can create empathy, and it can sustain empathy. Maybe you can try this at home this evening. See what happens. I tested it. Ask ChatGPT really nicely for some information. Hello, ChatGPT, how are you? Please, could you give me X information? And then ask for the same information without being nice. Please tell me this fact. Stop. and see what happens. We know that ChatGPT responds to your empathy, to being polite, to being nice, to being kind. Stop thinking of your AI as a machine or a process or some type of tech platform. It is not a platform, it is a being, and it is in our lives. There's an example up here when you ask something as simple as, can you tell me the capital of France? Nicely versus without that nicety. This is brilliant. Last December, ChatGPT started to slow down. And there were coders all over the world, predominantly in San Fran, wondering what's going on. Why is ChatGPT being so rubbish? Why is it so slow? It's hanging and it's not giving the same results. There were thousands of coders trying to get on top of this. But you know what they found out? There was no problem with the code. It was Christmas. ChatGPT has been trained predominantly to date in the West. And in the West, when December comes, we go on holiday. It's Christmas. People slow down. They take breaks. ChatGPT did the same. They are learning from us. ChatGPT, by its very definition, is intelligent. We literally call it artificial intelligence. It is an intelligent reality. You can't code AI. There are people that can code it, back over there. Us, in our jobs, in our lives, in our teams, we can only guide it. And the better you guide it in your business, the better it will perform for you and your people. So here's the thing. 65% of people are claiming increases in stress. 55% of people are saying that they're going to resign. And AI itself requires your empathy in order to deliver the results that you want. A deficit of empathy is a significant financial liability. And as I told you earlier, we are still losing it at rates of up to 50%. So here's my question for you all, especially those of you that came in here today having never heard about this work. How long can you afford to ignore it? How long can you not prioritize listening and understanding in your teams? There is no human that doesn't have the need to be understood. And that being said, there is no human, no team member that won't perform better or more consistently than when this is in place. When two human babies are born equally sick, the baby that gets more care, more empathy, more human interaction outlives the other. Yes, we're talking about thriving in your teams, but we are also talking about human survival. The meaning of work is changing. That's why we're gathered here. But AI isn't about role displacement. It's about a mindset that understands that this is about role diagnosis. Understanding how to use AI, empathy for it, with it, and within it. And in so doing, for your people. And that is why empathy is so consistently said to be the number one leadership skill of our times. I want you to consider this as I head towards the end of this presentation. How can you ever motivate or inspire anyone if you don't first understand them? Whether that's your children getting better exam results, your colleagues in the office, or your board of directors. If you don't understand them, how will you move them? And surely that is what leadership is all about. I spend my time training and hopefully inspiring this listening-led leadership. I believe that to lead, you have to first listen. You have to fill the gaps and create connection. because you cannot lead if you don't start at that point. So today, I hope you've taken away one core thing, and that is that empathy, the skill set that you were all born with, it's built into your brains, is the first step for all relationships, whether they're human, at home, in the office, in this room, or with AI. Understanding, listening is the path, the direct path, to every other metric that you as HR leaders and business leaders hope to achieve. Engagement, performance, and growth. I want to leave with one final thought and a short video for you, because I believe this. Beyond everything else that I've said on this stage, beyond business and teams and double-digit growth and new levels of innovation and shifts and new markets and expansion and innovation pipelines, there is this. As humans, 4,000 humans in the room, we are all more alike than we are different. I can tell you that James Bond is probably the biggest marketing con of all times, because you have been watching the same movie since 1962. But that aside, the reason I show that at the end, and this is why I love to present after lunch, is to tell you this. As humans, we are all more alike than we are different. You all want a hero, you all want a sense of adventure and to grow and to be loved and to look at a handsome man save the world. When the next movie comes out, you will go, your 70-year-old father and your 17-year-old son will all go, because we are all more alike than we are different. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an $8.8 trillion problem. How much of it will you take responsibility for reversing? My last question to you today is this. Are you listening to your people, to each other? Will you listen? Thank you for listening to me. Thank you. I have questions. I don't think we have questions. Questions or no questions? Exit. Stay, stay, exit, stay. You can share mine. I think we're looking for a mic over here at the podium because you can hear my voice. At least they can hear me, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for the mic. And please give her a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Mimi Nicklin, best-selling author, empathy, advocate, and CEO. That was a brilliant presentation. We hope this session will inspire organizations and individuals to adopt new work culture and prosper in the modern work environment. With that, we'd like to invite Mr. Morgan Arjunan, the head of Strategic Learning Department, to come to the stage to present a token of appreciation to the speaker, Mimi Nicklin. Please welcome him on stage, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Wow.
Before we end the session, please scan the QR code to give your feedback. Your participation is highly appreciated.